Right, guys, I've got a question for you. I need your opinion on this. We have basically talked about this before in the past, but really I need you guys, anyone with a bit more Iaido knowledge. So get yourself a copy of the Book of Ninja or The Art of War if you want to help me out. That really does help. But my question for you today, guys, is this. Right, Chris sent me this book. Yeah, he sent me a few books, and I'm going to be doing reviews, not reviews, but discussions on these. Now, Chris Hulusi was the guy that I did the sparring with. The only man who's ever done it. The only man who's ever accepted my challenge. Everyone else has gone quiet. Sorry, guys. I do want to do more bouts for you, but no one will accept it. Right. So the question is this in Iaido. Now, Iaido or Iaijutsu or just Iai. It's actually in the medieval documents I've come across. It's just Iai. But then you get Iaijutsu spoke about, then Iaido. But the basic premise is two people meet and they want to cut a sword and kill each other. Okay, but the problem is this, is many of the Iaido katas are done sat down. So here you go, you sit down and you do these katas. Now, this might seem, you think, okay, so the Japanese sit opposite each other and that they do these katas and everything, and that's fine. But here's the problem. There isn't really a situation where they would A, sit that close and B, sit down with their swords. Sit down this close with their swords. It wouldn't really come about. And the other one is, guys, I've spent a lot of time in Japan. I've spent a lot of time talking to sword masters, modern sword masters, of course. And the one thing I've said to them is, well, what they've said is the things have changed since the Edo period, and one of the major things that stuck with by a few of the masters, they said what we used to do standing up is now sitting down. So it said these were originally formed for standing up, okay, so that if somebody attacked you in the street you could do it. But in the Edo period they tended to sit everything down. Everybody tended to be kneeling in Seiza, and we learned that way. Why did this happen? I know it did happen because it's just, you speak to people who are in the know, they're in the knowledge, and they say, yes, actually, this happened. But why I haven't got down to is, where's the proof for this happening, which I'm sure we'll get to one day. But two is, why did they do it? But that creates the massive problem, guys. If these skills are for when you're originally stood up, what skills were actually for when sat down? Now, the basic answer to this would be, right, when a samurai walks in... So if you want to know more about this, the Book of Ninja here, if you actually go and get the Book of Samurai, which was written in 1670s, it talks about this. And it says, when you go into somebody's house, there is a special place where you leave your sword. There's even a special marker on the sword, something you can feel in the dark, to double check you've picked up the right sword. If you don't pick up the right sword, you can then go and send your squire to exchange it, and, it's not a problem. You just got to be careful. There's lots of etiquette of where you put your sword, because you don't sit down with your sword on. However, I have talked about this in the past. There are times when you do. For example, delivering a message. There seems to be Edo period evidence that when you sit down delivering a message, you can deliver a message and your sword stays on. There's also in the Edo period when you're arresting someone, which is the only time I can think of using Iaido. But what we have is Iaido here is katana v katana. The person you're arresting in their house who sat down would not have a katana on. He would totally have that on his usually sat at his side or in the cupboard, not cupboard, but the sort of cloakroom for katana, or in his bedroom or in the there are various places you sleep with it, you put it to your side, but you don't sit down with it. A samurai in his house is not walking around with his katana on all day. He might pick it up and prop it, pick it up and move it, pick it up, he'll take it with him, or he could store it with his squire, that's fine, but he's not wearing it. But all of these kata seem to be two people sitting down who then fight each other. So they're sitting down, there must be friends, or there must be in a social situation where they have to speak to each other. There's been something's gone on, a sword is drawn, and all hell has broke loose. But I can't think of any situation in Japanese history where that happens. I can't. A messenger can arrive, kneel down, give a message with his sword in, stand up and go. From only one piece of information I have seen, just one. The general gist is that in the Edo period, you took your sword off and left it at the door, and you went with your wakizashi. Yep. Or, if you were in that house, you were allowed to leave it in a cloakroom or put it to the side of you, to the left or the right, depending on the style of, what's going on. Also, if you're arresting someone, in which case you wear chainmail underneath and your sword in your belt, and then they know they're being arrested and they're going to have to die. So either they come with you and commit suicide, or, something's going to go on, or you're going to fight to death. That's why you wear chainmail. So this idea of two people sat down with katana opposite each other happens in nearly every Iaido club. Why? Why does this happen? I can't really get my head around it. Now, there would be a situation, say, where there's two people sat down with wakizashi, and then they would then go to strike. That's perfectly acceptable because everybody keeps wakizashi, and I think the wakizashi are in no tai, which means blade up, and you would draw blade up. But often, especially older samurai, would use their tachi katana in Yono tai, which is Yono obi, which is basically you turn it round the opposite way, so it's blade down. And many people misunderstand this. They think, oh, that's tachi slung from the belt. No, you can go active, inactive with katana or tachi. It doesn't matter. You and in an obi. I'm not talking about dropping from an obi belt. I'm talking about dropping inside of your katana. You can turn them the way that nobody today would dare turn them, but they could. And there's many pieces of information on this showing you how they did it. So guys, first of all, thank you to Chris for sending me this book. I'm going to do a few more videos on his book because he sent me some of these, and we've got some other stuff, but it just came out to me now. Nobody addresses this problem of iaijutsu, where two people sit opposite each other with long swords in their scabbards, and there's a fight and they attack. Can anyone think of any evidence or proof why this would happen? As I said, just to recap, the only way I can see it happening is if it's done with wakizashi, because you have that on you and you might fight. Or you've seen them sometimes, I've seen them, they pull a tray, they want to attack someone, they get a tray and they throw the tray and pull their wakizashi out. But it's not a katana. There's no reason to sit down with your katana and fight each other except for various situations. But the other person does not have a katana on at this point. It's one of those things which we have to find out is when and where were samurai allowed to wear katana when they sit or kneel down, in which social situations. And to find that answer is going to be very difficult because we're going to have to analyse lots of different documents that are probably random documents, not like I'm going to go and find the sitting down with katana document. You're going to find lots of random documents to build that picture. That I don't know who's going to do that. We can't do it. So anybody, any ideas out there, especially Japanese protocol schools, let me know. Get yourself a copy of the Book of Ninja, Art of War, or get the Book of Samurai if you want to know more about where a samurai would put his sword.